Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the EvoSec podcast. My name is Eric Davis. I am blessed again. I really don't remember how many times it is now, Chris, but I am blessed to have our great friend, close friend, Chris Lapre onto the show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing very well, man. Very, very well. Can't complain.
Did you happen to hear the last episode with Cecil?
I have not had a chance, but he made a point to prove that he is now ahead of me by one. So we're back even as of right now.
Yeah, and I think that he even said he went as far to say that the last episode that you were on was with John Valentine, so it didn't count as a whole episode. So he said it just counted as half.
Well, we can tell him that if originally it was supposed to be you and I and Cecil on the first one we were supposed to do a couple weeks ago, a month ago.
Yep.
So technically that would have been a half. That would have been a third. So he still would have been behind me. And now with this one, it would have put me ahead again. So he can complain all he wants, but whatever.
Oh man, this is all in good fun. I wonder if our audience is tired of hearing this back and forth. I doubt it. They're probably just laughing just like us.
If they know us, then they know it's all in good fun, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They should certainly know that. Well, Chris, man, I'll just start off with asking you how you been, man. What have you been up to?
Doing well, dude. Doing good, man. I don't know if we talked since last time. I'm still doing the reserve thing, right? So I'm still reserve with my agency. You're gonna laugh at this. I got appointed as a judge. So
Really?
yeah,
Wow.
I saw that face, man. I knew that was gonna be the reaction.
Judge Lapre, huh?
Yeah, man. It's I'm nothing super cool. I just do IAs right now, which is initial appearance. So it's definitely a different look behind the curtain. You know what I mean? And it's very interesting. I was real hesitant at first when I got asked to do it, and I was like, man, number one, I'm certainly not a lawyer, And speaking to the gentleman that hired me or that appointed me, I should say, he's like, hey man, you have several, almost 30 years now of understanding what probable cause is. He goes, and all you need to do is have a solid foundation and understanding what probable cause is and facts of the case. So I went and sat in on a couple of them and watched how it was done. And I was like, man, this is really interesting because you see the backside, right? You see when the cases, the law enforcement case is done and the prosecution case gets picked up. So I sat through a couple and went through the training. And man, I've really learned to enjoy it. It's definitely something I would never have guessed in 1,000 years that I'd be doing, but it's definitely something I appreciate. And it definitely makes me a much more understanding of the law. You know what I mean? Like sometimes what officers think is probable cause is probably more like reasonable suspicion. And that plays a factor in whether somebody gets held, bondable, non-bondable, or if they get released. And, that this could lead us down a whole nother path. But, there's that big thing going on across the country right now is judges being held accountable for releasing some of these violent criminals.
Yeah.
Like we saw with some of these recent high profile cases. And it's now a year and a half, 2 years ago, I'd have been like, man, that judge is definitely got some potential liability if there wasn't immunity on their side, right? And then I start seeing some of these probable cause statements come through from cops on some pretty serious crimes, and I'm like, man, this is bad, And I mean, man, it'll be 30 years for me next year, right? Year and a half for me that I've been in law enforcement. I've been a sworn police officer, and I never had a freaking training on a probable cause statement. They're like, hey, write a probable cause statement on the facts of the case, and that's it. Well, when you're down 14 reports and you just arrested a guy on an aggravated assault, all you're thinking about is, hey, how can I get this guy booked as fast as possible and put into jail so I can start my reports, right? Now, man, I wish I had this knowledge 30 years ago. It would have been much better because you can build your your statement around the prosecution of the case and the seriousness of the crime, instead of just your perception of get this guy to jail and move on to the next case or move on to that report. And I think it's worked out for me because I've been able to reach out to the agencies that I've worked with for the past 27 years here in Arizona and be like, hey guys, this is the case that came through. This is why the guy was released. Let's talk about it, and we need to do some training on this. And it's been cool because the agency has brought me back, my agency specifically has brought me back to in our advanced academy. So you graduate the academy, you go to a several week academy with Pinal County. And during that, I go in and I talk about the importance of your PC statement, right? Like your probable cause statement and how that impacts whether this bad guy gets released or not. So I've enjoyed it on both ends, like the law enforcement side and the judge side, because there's a translation, right? I can take my experiences, apply them to what I'm seeing on paper, and go back and help those agencies and those officers produce a better case. So it's been a huge learning curve for me. But man, it's very, very, very interesting, and it's re-piqued my whole interest. And if I was younger, I might go to law school.
Well, yeah. Chris, I'll say something on that comment is for a little while, and it was a few years ago, I started getting a bug that I might go back to school because, I still have my GI Bill. I hadn't used a cent of it, right?
Sure.
And for some reason, I got a bug and started thinking about it. But then when I really looked at how number one, I still enjoy my current job.
Yeah.
My current job, I'm never bored, right? And I don't think you would be necessarily bored as a lawyer per se, because if I would have done it, I would have went something in self-defense law. But
Yeah.
yet at the same time, I really looked at it. Do I want to, at that point, it would have been my mid 40s, start a career over when I can stick this out just a handful of years more and retire with my government pension and some other benefits. So I just decided I'm going to stick it out. And I don't know if I've mentioned that to you or not, but yeah, I've got about 4.5 years that I'm retiring.
Yeah, man,
So
you can't beat that. And
yep.
like the private sector, the money is much better. You know what I mean? Especially for cops right now. But man, for me, it's usually the 27th to the 29th. Every month a check gets deposited.
Yep.
And it's pretty nice, man. In any money I make over that is just a benefit.
Oh yeah.
So, and I'm thankfully I'm still healthy. I'm still healthy. I'm still somewhat mobile. Although the more I train, the harder that gets. But man, I could have um, a second career, but right now I'm doing what I want to do, and not just working for somebody. Between Surefire, this part-time judge thing, and a couple other things I have in the works, man, I couldn't be happier.
Well, how much do you actually think that how many hours are you putting in?
Man, it depends. Like, we were supposed to have a big trial this month on a case I was involved in several years ago with the sheriff's office. So it was a qualified immunity civil case. And the attorneys from the sheriff's office were telling us like, hey man, plan for a month trial. So I didn't pick up a bunch of shifts this month, but it's usually 6 to 8 shifts a month. So 2 per week. And, then guys are always like, hey, I can't cover this shift. So I could pick up, 2 to 3 more if I wanted. But man, I'm like, if I get 8 shifts a month, like, for me, I'm like, man, I gotta go to work today. This is terrible. So, yeah. But so I don't have it bad at all. As much as I'm complaining, I don't have it bad at all. It could always be worse.
Well, and the way I look at it again, I am retiring just a little bit early, but when I really looked at the numbers, if I stayed on until I was in let's say 62
Yeah.
versus 57. We're talking maybe $250 more a month. Yeah, it's not worth it, man. And get out when I'm 57. And to be honest with you, Chris, I don't know how thoroughly I plan on being in, teaching a lot of classes. Like,
Yeah.
years ago, I thought, that's what I'm going to be doing. That's my plan. I'm going to be teaching classes, and I still plan on doing some of that, but I might push back more into the local jujitsu coaching, combatives, the that type of training more than the firearms. I'm just being honest with you. I love teaching folks firearms, but there's a lot to deal with
Uh-huh.
in the male ego. That, you know what, man? I don't know how much I want to fight it anymore, man.
Oh, dude, this is this is a great road to go down, right? Because how old are you right now, Eric?
So I'm 52.
Okay, so
Yep. So
you're
I'll be 53 in September.
okay, so you're basically just a little over you're 3 years older than me. I just turned 50 last weekend, right?
Well,
Um,
happy belated birthday, man. I wish I'd have been paying close attention. I'd have made sure I told you happy birthday.
oh, I appreciate it, dude.
You're
You
up
know,
here with us now, man.
yeah,
Big 5-0.
dude. I know, man. It's like I never thought I'd make it, but I retired at. I had just turned 47 when I retired. Like literally, um, it was well. I hadn't even turned 47 yet. I turned 47 a month after I retired. So, and I'm like, hey, man, this is going to be great. I'm retiring super young. Basically, 47 years old is pretty damn young to be retired
Absolutely.
pension. And I was like, man, I'm going to sit at home and drink my coffee, and I'm going to train jujitsu and shoot. All right. And that got me through about 3 months. And I was like, I am bored stiff. And I was doing some stuff with Surefire, but the Institute hadn't really kicked off yet and things like that. So it was kind of like this kind of purgatory area that I was staying in. And the job came up with the court and stuff. So I jumped on that. And man, now I work my own schedule and I love it. And I will tell you this, dude, if you retire at 57 in good health, that's a great thing. I probably retired a little early just because, um, you know, I'm bored. I was bored, but now I get enough to keep me occupied. But man, I'll tell you, I was done. Like 27 and a half years, I was done, man. I needed to decompress a little bit, especially with some of the administrative things we were dealing
Yep.
with. And it's not the bad guys on the street. It's the admin that just kills law enforcement, and we're seeing it today around the country. Guys don't want to be cops anymore just because of some of the issues going on. And so part of me is like, hey man, I retired too young. Other part of me is I don't know if I'd still be here if I had stayed because my
Mhm.
blood pressure was so high at the end
Yep.
of the day. So I'm still in the community, still with the reserve with my agency. Uh, I got other things in the fire, as we just mentioned. So I'm happy, man. And retire as young as you can, especially if it's 200, $300 a month.
Oh yeah.
Dude, you could sell lemonade on your front lawn and make that up.
Absolutely. And there's all kinds of stuff. I mean, I definitely will still be involved. I'll want to do something in this industry,
Sure.
but I'll be just as happy doing some consulting work in my field right now, every now and then. And if I just want the extra money, but to be frank with you, I don't think I'm gonna really need to work too hard. Pretty much everything, just like you said, it's going to be gravy on top. And I most assuredly, this is kind of what I was getting at. I, I I kind of much rather be a freaking training junkie than anything else.
Yeah.
Help people that really want help.
So
But selling myself when I don't have the same level of experience of a lot of my peers, um, we'll just see where it goes. Who knows?
yeah, to circle back to the whole ego thing, man. Um, dude, I got probably about a year and a half ago, and I got really turned off by the shooting industry.
Yep. I've been feeling it, brother.
I would go out, I'd train on my own. I'm fortunate. I got Ben right up the road. I'd go and shoot with him and stuff like that, and a couple of my buddies.
Very lucky. Ben
And
Steger, right?
yes, sir.
Yeah.
As
Well,
far as like the rest of it, man, I was just like, I don't see this kind of eat your own in any other industry. Like
nope.
it happens in jujitsu, but it's very, very, very. They kind of police their own, right? Like you see it. Um, but man, I just get really, really, really turned off by the training industry, the shooting community, and it's just it doesn't seem like it's lightening up at all, and it's sad because me, man. I've been hosting classes since 2000.
Yep.
I mean, Craig was '04, Jeff Gonzalez and Pat Rogers, I think, was '03. So 23 years I've been doing classes, man, and these last probably 5 years, especially the past 2 to 3, the community has really taken a dump. And I hate to say that because I have some great friends there, but it's just I don't know what the issue is, and it's sad because if the gun industry could come together as a whole, being the hunters, the tack guys, the competition guys, the bullseye guys, man, we wouldn't have to worry about Second Amendment issues in this
No.
country. But we can't. We can't, and it's sad.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And really, your sentiment is where I've kind of been for a minute, and some of it's on the client side too, man.
Yes.
Um, I'll just bring this up, man. And I haven't talked with Craig or Brian, but and I'm talking of course about Craig Douglas and Brian Frias of ShivWorks. I mean, I'm amazed at the disrespect that I see towards ShivWorks videos sometimes. Now,
Oh,
now, granted, those guys are thick skinned. That they don't need advertisement. When I was hosting Craig at the beginning, and when you were hosting him, Craig filled seats, man. He
yeah.
didn't really need advertisement, you
Yep.
know. But just to see them trying to put out useful information and try to get more people to understand that possibly what some of what they offer are other individuals or instructors. We can name a plethora of instructors that do
Yeah.
some similar content, is that folks need, if they're serious about self-defense, they need that type of training in their lives. And the amount of disrespect from dudes that clearly have no clue
Yeah.
what they're talking about and clearly have no clue who they're saying it to, that and it's not that I don't want to shape it into an ego thing with
Yeah.
that either. What I'm saying is the amount of work that that the individuals are but around Craig, obviously it's Craig's primary work, right? His body of work. But then those that surround him both in the collective, and there's a lot more people that are coming out that are, doing similar training that are getting well known out there. But just to see that disrespect from people that would be clients otherwise, and well, I know those individuals wouldn't be clients because they know it all, right? They don't need help from people that frankly change people's lives. Have you seen some of that?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I've seen it real heavy in, um, it, especially lately with some of the two different shooting schools, right? The heavy competition side, the heavy tactical side, and I think it comes down to, man, some people have forgotten what it's like to be punched in the face.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely. Because they're behind this phone or this keyboard, and you're
or
absolutely right, man.
even worse, man. Like, even if you and I were to meet in person, and you're whatever, and we start having a disagreement, we can start screaming and bowing up on each other, and we may fight, right? But we're probably not going to pull guns on each other,
Right.
okay? Or one guy's going to back down and turn around like we see all the time. But it's like when you're dealing with legit bad guys, man, like, hey, you're going to fight, believe me, you're going to fight a lot more people than you shoot, okay?
Yep.
And I
Absolutely.
And I think when people get out from behind the keyboard or get out from behind the phone or have the balls to say something to somebody's face and go, hey, man, well, you're a C class or a B class shooter. Cool, dude. I get it. Yep. I understand that. But I also spend a lot of my time training on mats, whether it's BJJ, Muay Thai, MMA, whatever. Right. And, I had somebody say something to me one day where they were kind of talking crap about my shooting. And I was like, hey, man, I get it. Like, I don't have the time to go and be an A class or a master class shooter, but I'm confident with myself. I could always be better, right? But right now, where my shooting is, um, I would prefer to put my skill sets into jujitsu or something
Absolutely.
of that, because I'm going to probably have to fight a lot more people that I'm going to have to shoot, especially in the future, right? Is that
Absolutely.
and I would prefer that skill set to be as high, if not higher, than my shooting. Because
Most assuredly.
um, I don't, I'm not the greatest shooter out there, but I'm not the worst shooter, right? But I'll tell you where I'm lacking is on my combative skills as a jujitsu practitioner, right? And I want that to be very high. And
Well, Chris, I want to, I think it's important. You're a humble guy, and I think there's a distinction. And I know you in in the shooting community. I've taken classes with you. Your performance on demand is you're one of the better shooters that I know on that type of skill set. And I think, and again, I bring this up a lot, right?
sure,
Um, I made master class in IDPA many years ago before it was as hard as it is now. I
sure.
still don't shoot that level anymore, but my accuracy on demand is much better now. What I can distribute cold is better than when I was shooting master class in IDPA. So I want to make it clear that I think there is a difference, Chris, and I, I I'm in the same boat. I'm back into competitive shooting again, but I'm really not concerned about making high level anymore. I'm just not. If it happens, great. But I'm not nearly as concerned about that as I am my combatives capabilities and being able to shoot solid skills on demand. And that's more important to me than
So
getting higher level in USPSA or IDPA.
that's a great thing, man. Like, I was shooting IDP. So I shot a few USPSA matches again. Enjoyed it, right? But what I found was that the community was less than welcoming, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just maybe it's because of the place I was shooting at. Real Salato's got a half dozen, or, well, a lot more than that, but world champions up there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I started shooting PCSL, which I absolutely love. Freaking like one of my favorite things to shoot, right? And then I went and shot an IDPA match my buddy was like, hey, come shoot an IDPA match. And I'm like, all right. And man, the community was so welcoming, you know, and so much more like willing to help and just be like, hey man, do this, don't do that. And nobody got pissed off, or it was just so man, I really, really I enjoy shooting you IDPA. I know there's people call it, oh, there's dumb rules. Cool, man. I'm not there, like you said. I'm there to build a skill set, right? Competition's competition.
Mm-hmm.
And then PCSL is also the pistol carbine. I love it. It's very USPSA based. Again, out of Rio Salado, but it seems like it's a different crowd. Um, so those are the two directions I was going. And then I haven't been in a few months because I got pretty seriously hurt with another groin injury at jujitsu. But
Oh no, sorry to hear that, buddy.
dude, it was the same leg that I hurt when I was shooting one of Matt's classes.
Mm-hmm.
Just being dumb, man. Trying to go like I'm 25 instead of 49,
Yep.
and messed my leg up pretty good. But now in 2 weeks we got an IDPA class course coming up. I'm going to go shoot that again,
Nice.
and hopefully PCSLs. I'm going to jump back on that now that my legs are good again. I'm just going to jump into it. But as you know, man, like healing's more important as you get older than worrying about ego. And
Yeah,
I just had to
absolutely.
step back, and instead of doing the whole competition thing, I focused on healing and just kept going to the gym with the team that I've got, man. And those guys are awesome. So I can't knock it, but definitely I'm not there for a master class. I'm there for myself. It directly translates over to when I go and shoot scores for myself, right? But I'm also going to cross certify or cross state this, that I absolutely believe jujitsu has helped my performance on demand when I
Oh, I
shoot,
bet.
because it's like, hey man, I don't have some freaking brown belt or black belt or even purple belt, blue belt, high level blue belt just beating the snot out of me. All I got to do is, I've done this 100 million times, draw my pistol and put the bullets where I want them to go. This is easy compared to anything I do on the mats, you know?
Well said, man.
So I definitely think that translates over where I don't know if it translates the other way. It may for certain things, but the mental calmness and control that you have to have in jujitsu translates directly over to shooting.
Oh yeah, I can't agree more with that. And I would postulate that it isn't the other way around. I don't
Yeah.
think being a high level shooter has the same benefit that being solid in jujitsu or just being on the mats a lot
Yeah.
that it does for your shooting. I just don't see the shooting in the opposite direction reciprocating that way myself.
Now that doesn't mean it doesn't do things for you, right? We
Right.
know it absolutely does. You put in the notes section where I think it was Matt said he'd rather fail, you know, on the in a competition by himself than in front of his mates, and that's 100% true, man. Every time I ever trained with my guys or good friends, be it my SWAT guys, be it good friends, high level shooters, the the desire not to be embarrassed was way higher than if I was just out and failed on my own or did something stupid, or and it's exactly like how it is in jiu-jitsu, man. I go there, and I'll give you a great story. I ended up rolling with this kid. We got a new coach, by the way. I don't know if I told you that.
No, I wasn't tracking. No.
He's an ADCC medalist. He's going back to ADCC this year in Poland.
Wow.
The kid's world class, man. I mean, he's ranked number 2 or number 3 in the world right now for his weight class.
What weight class is he?
Uh, I think he's going to be 165. It's Josh Cisneros. I don't know if you know
Oh
who he
yeah,
is.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely know who that is, man.
Yeah. Josh is our coach now, man.
That's awesome, man. So does
So,
that mean you're doing more nogi?
no, I'm still a gi guy,
Hey,
dude.
I'm telling you right now, Chris. I live in the gi on the
Yeah.
mats, man. Although I love no gi, I actually prefer no gi.
Yeah.
But man,
I,
there's just so much benefit to slowing things down in the gi that it's just where I live these days, man.
yeah. Same with me. But, you know, I got rolled up by this kid, man. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him. I'm like, hey, man, why are you still wearing a gray and black belt? You're going to be like 17 or something, aren't you? You should have a blue belt by right now. And kind of looks at me. He's like, oh, no, man, I just turned 13. And I'm like, what? You
Wow.
know? And class is over. I'm sitting out in the lobby, kind of with my head hung low. And Josh comes over. He's like, hey, man, what's wrong? And I'm like, dude, I don't know if I belong here. And he's like, what do you mean? I go, I just got, if it wasn't for just old man strength and determination not to die, like this kid would have destroyed me. And he's like, hey, man, that dude's been training with me for 5 years,
Wow.
you know, 5 or 6 years. He's been training with me since he was 5 years old. And it kind of put it in perspective where I'm like, man, like there's levels, and
Absolutely.
what I took from that was I'm comfortable with where I'm at, right? On the shooting range. I'm not comfortable where I'm at with jujitsu. And again, been in that type of pressure, I take that and I'm like, hey, like I was just telling you, man, I'm not getting choked out. I'm not in an arm bar. I don't have some dude just squeezing the breath out of me. I can do this very, 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 very easily. the shooting side, as far as like translating over, when you're shooting on the range, there's no force on force, right? It's not like I'm going against guys. So there's not that, I guess you would call negative feedback for you to, other than your own self, there's no, or a competition or a master rating, A level rating, whatever you're going for. There's no penalty, I guess you would call it, to, I don't want to say improve because everybody wants to get better, but there's no negative penalty that's going to get you hurt. There's not that painful incentive,
Yeah.
you know. Um, so that's my theory on it. Now, does it translate over to law enforcement, and military, and civilians? Yes, absolutely. But that's a whole nother discussion we'll have here in a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, and Chris, I mean, I think it's a good time to segue into that
Sure.
because we've kind of been hitting on it. And I'll start by saying this. I think you and I both agree that although we believe and we're going to postulate or talk about the fact of the value of competition that can translate to better skills for real fights. But I know you agree with me. Everybody still needs to do force on force, well
100%.
executed force on force. So
Well,
before we move in, go ahead.
I want to just add one thing to that.
Mm,
In properly utilized force on force, right?
absolutely.
It's not going to turn into a paintball game. It has to be very scripted, and there has to be training points that occur for bad tactics or bad shooting, right? Because you've seen it as much as I have, man. Two guys get Sims guns, and next thing you know, it's who's going to shoot who in the ass first.
Yep. Yeah, and that has no value.
Correct.
It doesn't. That's well said, Chris. It is so important that there be a training objective in any type of force on force, and if it doesn't have a real training objective, and honestly, some rails,
Yes.
it's not going to be as effective.
Yep.
And so, yeah, well said. So, with that, Chris, I had been thinking about this a lot more in recent times since I started competing again, and then I saw Massad Ayoob had an article about, and it's titled, let me get to it here.
Is it
Will
the one?
competition shooting get you killed in the streets?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and so, Moss has his colorful way of saying things. I won't read too far into this, but I think what what I should do is kind of talk about some history that of competitive shooters back in the past that it just might be kind of fun to highlight. So I'll just
Sure.
briefly go through some of this, Chris, and I'll get your thoughts on some of these individuals if you like. But
I
as
was reading the article too, so I enjoyed it a lot.
and again, I'll say this, and there was a couple of notes that I had from the range master instructor class. One of the things that I personally have not been great at in until I really started, and I'm still not that great at it. But the one thing that the range master family and a lot of the folks that are really heavily tied into Tom Givens is they're really good about the history, man.
Yeah.
You know, and the fact is that there's really not a whole lot new under the sun. I mean, Tom, and I can't remember who it was that had it, but he pointed out a picture like maybe in just the turn of the century of a dude with an appendix holster. You
So
know,
very interesting story on that. Tom actually sent me that picture after the last class we did out here,
mm.
and explained that that was a picture of an Arizona Ranger.
Oh, okay, I do remember that now. Yep.
Yeah, Arizona Frontier, and he was carrying an appendix holster, and I was like, man, that's actually kind of cool. And it's not, it's nothing new, right? But I agree 100% with you that I wish I had the knowledge base of history that those guys do, because it is amazing, and I just don't know where where you find that type of information anymore. And that, if we have time at the end, that'll lead into something I'd like to bring up here and talk about.
Sure, we can talk about anything you want to. One of the coolest things about Massad Ayoob is he talks about how often he spends time in libraries,
Yeah.
right? So a lot of the information that Massad and Tom and Lee Weems and those other gentlemen that I'll mention a couple more here in a second.
John Hearn.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't not mention John Hearn. He's another person commands history really well, and to me, those gentlemen have done a lot of research on the back end. I'm just hoping that some of them actually, I know that several of them been talking about putting out books.
Yeah.
And I hope that happens. But in the meantime, a lot of what that history has come from those guys just being in libraries and researching that stuff old school style. And again, that master IDC, I wish I had time because I've got some of my notes sitting here. I wish I had time to really digest it again and write it in clearer notes. But
sure.
Bottom line is that I think this little brief history that Moss had can kind of bring some cool light to it. So he talks about here. Let's go back in time among Old West gunfighters. Wyatt Earp was known to compete in the informal shooting matches of the Cowtowns. I can't find any history of Wild Bill Hickok or John Wesley Hardin shooting matches. However, both at different times in their careers were known to practice something similar, putting on shooting skill demonstrations in front of audiences. In other words, another arena of shooting under pressure to test their own skills and motivate them to keep those skills sharp, which is a big point we're going to drive home. Then you had the likes of Jelly Bryce, which I'm going to stop there for a second. Jelly Bryce obviously is very famous, he's most famous for the point shooting that he was phenomenal at. But he really, then this was Tom Givens, his statements on it. He said, Jelly Bryce had superb vision and he was really good at point shooting, but not everybody had that kind of vision. So it kind of really hurt the shooting community and law enforcement for many, many years.
So
And they were still, go ahead.
I was going to say that brings up, I'll let you finish. And then I got something on my phone that I was going to bring up based off of that. And
Okay.
he wrote an article about, you know who Joe Watson is, right?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. So Joe sent me this because we were having a discussion about this. And he talks about that gentleman and how some of that was, let me see here, the guy's name. I think it was the same guy where, let me see. I apologize for
No,
the,
man,
Jelly Bryce introduced point shooting to law enforcement, and it was really setting us back
absolutely.
several decades because of he's one of those 1 in 10 million guys that had the ability to do it. It doesn't mean it translates over to everybody else, right?
Absolutely.
So I've got an article here specifically on that. I will send you when we're done. It's very,
cool.
very interesting.
Very cool, man. I'd love to read it. Yeah, it was certainly driven home by Tom.
Yeah,
that it was a major setback for many, many years. And so, of course, he got his first job in police by impressing, I guess, the local chief.
Yep.
That with winning a shooting match, and then Colonel Charles Askin Jr., who won many matches, and in the mid 1930s won the U.S. National Pistol Championship. Before and since, he killed many men as both a border patrolman and as a soldier, most in face-to-face shootouts. I'll mention Frank Hammer.
Yeah.
Frank Hammer, of course, he was the primary lead in the Bonnie and Clyde ambush, right?
Sure.
Well, he had over 52 other gunfights. He was shot 20 times himself. he would set up police shooting championship, or excuse me, competition to encourage cops to shoot. So obviously, he's very famous for what he accomplished.
Sure.
Um, so we then had Border Patrol Elmer Hilden. He won the National Police Revolver Championships multiple times and was said to have had won 9 gunfights. In Ohio, we had Kerry Heil. He had won the same title several times before a day came when he had to go against a gunman some 35 yards away who was shooting at police. Heil coolly rolled his double action trigger of his Smith & Wesson Model 64 revolver and shot the cop killer dead with 4.38 special rounds at that 35 yards. That's honestly pretty impressive there.
Sure.
Then, a lot of people know about Jim Cirillo, right?
Oh yeah.
Both
Yeah.
Jim Cirillo and Bill Allard were famous for being a part of the NYPD stakeout squad, right?
Sure.
Jim Cirillo specifically, before his first and most famous gunfight, 3 bad guys dropped in 3 seconds, one at 25 yards, with Jim shooting a 4-inch Smith & Wesson Model 1038. He had been winning major shooting championships in PPC events, which I think you'll agree PPC is probably not the best competition. But again, it was still Jim Cirillo shooting under pressure, right, in a
Sure.
competition. Let's see here. One of the points that they made, both Bill and Jim were emphatic that their experience in shooting under pressure in matches had become the norm and carried through into their gunfights. It let them put the shooting part on autopilot
Yep.
and focus their conscious minds on the major decision: shoot or don't shoot. So I'll say this there. It's a good time to bring up automaticity, right? Being having solid skills in competitive realms, especially, I think you would also agree, in the more dynamic shooting sports, USPSA, IDPA, so on and so forth,
Sure.
that automaticity, it it is a huge advantage because you don't have to, you just run pretty much in subconscious your gun handling skills, and then you can reserve your mind for the other bandwidth, tactics, and decision making, right?
So that brings up a great point, man. And I think there's something overlooked there. The automaticity to like, let's talk about it. Shooting is shooting, right? Whether I'm shooting a person, an animal, or a target, that just has to be like, hey, the gun's there, press the trigger. Okay. What I think they also talk about that a lot of people kind of forget in this is that extra bandwidth allows for emotional control. And
Oh man, very
uh,
good point.
he speaks about it in the book where he says, hey, it allows that bandwidth to either shoot or not shoot, right? Because not shooting can be just as important as pulling the trigger. And we see it where some of these cops get in shootings, and it's not just cops, but we'll talk about it, what it is, because that's the hot topic right now is cops need to be better shooters. And I couldn't agree more. But what you see is that gun goes on autopilot, and all they're thinking is, I can spray as many bullets as I want. I just want this bad guy to go away. And they're not hitting anything, right? What that does is they're more worried about cranking rounds at something than actually going, am I hitting this guy? And what's going on in the background? And I think sometimes we don't realize the importance of the other spectrum of that. Like the shooting should only be 5%. The emotional control should be that 95%, right? And that's where that automatic reaction comes in. Like I've done this 100 million times. Cool. Can I shoot? Can I make the shot? What's my trigger press need to be? Is this guy at 35 yards? Do I need to roll that trigger a little smoother, a little slower? Or is he at 5 yards and I can just whip that gun out and go to blasting, right? And I think that is such an overlooked thing. And Matt talks about this very, very much in whether he's on Instagram or writing something or whatever, is how important that is,
Matt
because
Pronka, correct?
Matt
Yep.
Perka, yep. And I don't think there's a lot of people out there that realize, instructors included, that realize that that is the huge factor I think he's trying to get at, right? It's not that the competition is the important part. It's the pressure of understanding decision making while you're shooting, you know? Uh,
Absolutely.
because whether you want to accept it or not, when you're running a stage, IDPA, USPSA, PCSL, whatever, when you're running a stage, you're not thinking about the shooting. You're thinking about where I'm going next to get the best position to make the most accurate hits so I can get out of position, get to the next stage, right? And like, if you're worried about the shooting, you're not thinking about all of that. And that's where we see some of the failures, I think, in law enforcement. And we'll get into this on my end here in a little while.
Yeah, and Chris, I think it's a great time to bring up a couple of points. Number one, I want to come back to Matt Pronka and Kyle Lamb real quick, but I'll end this little segment with what I think is an important quote. And I'd heard Tom Givens say something similar. Is critics of competition shooting gravely pronounce as if they were dispensing profound wisdom. A shooting match isn't a gunfight. And Massad Ayoob says here, and I've heard him say this many times, a shooting match is not a gunfight, but a gunfight absolutely is a shooting match. You are
Yes,
wanting to shoot them a lot faster than they're shooting you, and hopefully you don't get shot at all. So that's absolutely a shooting match. Your thought on that quote there, man?
dude, it's 100% accurate. It's funny because a lot of the newer guys up and coming, man, they don't necessarily talk bad about him, but there's a little bit of fudism that comes with him,
Yes.
as Larry Vickers, right? And it's like, oh, Larry shoots drills and Larry shoots bullseyes. I get it, man. I've known Larry for 22 years. Um, I took a CQB course with him years ago, man, where he was teaching a CQB thing up in Nevada, and you got a different Larry inside the house. He was a different dude, and I have a video, and I wish I could transfer it over from my phone onto something where he's given the final lecture, and I wish I had the entire lecture on video. I only have, I think, like 3 or 5 minutes, and he's talking about the only thing that stops bad guys is rapid, accurate rounds on target faster than your opponent. And it's like, and he talks about, he's like, that's why I'm an accuracy Nazi. He goes, rapid, accurate rounds on target is what's going to win the gunfight. And a lot of people say, oh, well, you're shooting bulls and stuff. Hey, man, I never went to a Vickers class where we shot slow bulls, right? And whether it's right or wrong, as far as bullseye, the way he trains, it's worked for a lot of people, you know? Um, and now if you can transfer that over to USPSA and stuff like that, that IDPA, that's awesome. But it's all the same verbiage, but it's just said in different ways. So definitely my kind of, that video I have really sticks with me, and I'll send that to you too, so you have it, because it's
Yeah.
very interesting to hear
Oh,
his.
I definitely want to be able to reuse that quote with affirmation to him, because I think that's really well said. And
Yeah,
of course, Larry Vickers is a former unit. The civilian sector out there knows it as Delta, right? But he's a former unit operator. And Kyle Lamb, former unit guy. Matt Pronka, of course, we just spoke about him, former unit guy. And both Kyle and Matt, I've heard both say a similar phrase, in that they said that they would rather have USPSA GMs or other high level shooters that never had any tactics training or tactical training. They would rather have them first and then teach them tactics versus some hot shit unit that's got great tactics, but their shooting levels way below what it should be. I think that says a lot coming from those guys. What are you thinking about that?
absolutely. I'm fortunate that as I rose through the ranks with my agency, and I was on SWAT as long as I was, and I kind of got to see that culture change, where early on, it was very much like, oh, we're just going to go practice this. We're going to practice CQB. We're going to practice CQB. We're going to practice, but we never shot, right? And I was on my own shooting. And honestly, the decision making was so much faster for me and the other guys that shot a lot, Brian Gregg and all these other dudes that were, I don't want to say we were separate, but we were in a different position, right? And as I became a sergeant and then a lieutenant on the team, it was like, hey guys, we're going to shoot. Like, we're going to shoot a lot because I don't want you thinking about the shooting. And to the credit of those guys on my team, man, they've taken that levels above, and they're phenomenal now. They understand that, you know, and what you have is the shooting, again, is the shooting, but it opens up for me to say, hey, nobody there, sweep my sectors of fire. There's nobody, or there is somebody. Is it a known, unknown, or freaking bad guy, right? So it's amazing to see somebody that's a high level shooter, and then you put them in a shoot house and you give them, let's say, 30 minutes of like, hey man, this is how we're going to move, right? This is what we're going to do. Hit your corners, points of domination, stuff like that, sectors of fire, and you watch them, and it's easy because they're like, I'm not worried about the shooting.
Mhm.
They're sitting there, they're processing. It did. I relate it, and I know we always go back to jujitsu, but think about a high level black belt, right? Is he thinking about what I'm doing now? No, he's setting me up for 4
Yep.
moves down, right?
Absolutely.
And that is exactly what it is. That shooter is 2 rooms ahead because he's already cleared this room and not worried about the shooting. He's thinking about, what's my partner doing? Where am I going? How am I dealing with the process in there? And it's pretty amazing to see that, you know, because again, I think that word bandwidth is overused, but the bandwidth is so much extended that they don't have to worry. Shooting is this little minuscule portion of it that they have absolutely mastered. So it allows
Well,
them to do
excuse me, got choked up there. And
well.
speaking of John Hearn, since we're on that subject, I'll make 2 points. Number one, and I wish I had his name in front of me right now, but Lee Weems had a former copper and a GM on. I'm forgetting his name right now. I'll try to get it in the show notes. But he obviously made it to a GM in USPSA, but I think he said it really well. He's like, I made attain that level of shooting, but you know what? Because I own that level of shooting, when I'm in an actual gunfight, I'm probably going to be slowing my splits down, because I'm making decisions on the fly. It may become a no shoot after it was a shoot. All of these other things, being able to stop shooting can sometimes be as equally important as
Absolutely.
beginning the shooting cycle due to stimulus. But anyway, the point that he made, I really liked, was that you attain a high level of shooting, and then when you have, like you said, you have those skills reserved so that you can have that emotional control. And I'll make this point too. I know I'm slightly going off
Oh, you're good, man.
subject.
I think
So
it's going well.
I'm lucky. I've never had to be in a gunfight directly as a soldier, or obviously on the street. I've not needed that. I'm very lucky that I've never had to be in a gunfight. But what I do have some comparison is attaining a decent level of shooting, right? But my first few ECQCs, because number one, I'm under all this pressure and stress, to where my shooting wasn't the best. I was,
Mhm.
drawing my pistol when I shouldn't have. Timing rule, the timing rule was not engaged, or wasn't there, wasn't present, I should say. I was drawing the pistol when I shouldn't have, getting fouled up, and then in other cases, I'm cooking off rounds and actually missing a few times. But
Yeah.
when I started getting calmer, where my jujitsu and my wrestling would allow me to take my time
Yep.
to make that shooting decision, and I frankly would slow the shooting process down too, and I made way better decisions, and
Yep.
I wasn't missing at that point. If I can bring that as an anecdotal example from my own self, But I think
Sure.
there is a point where that emotional control, like you said, is so freaking important.
Yeah, man. I like the way Matt puts it. Again, Matt Pranka, where he's talking about, hey, we're going to train at like zero point 0.2 to 0.25 splits, but in an actual engagement, we want to be like 0.3 to 0.35, right? And I thought a lot about that, and I'm like, man, that's interesting because most of the time guys just go cyclic on the guns. But and I'm sure maybe we'll get lucky and Matt will listen to this, but I think what he's trying to say is, hey, if you train at a very high level, the shooting's there, then you can take that 0.35, like you're saying, because you've been there and go, hey man, yeah, the guy's shooting at me or whatever. He's trying to kill me in some fashion or another, right? Um, but I'm not dead and I'm not shot yet, so I need to make these shots count. And I've been there in one situation for sure. The other one was a little different, but my last one was very much like this has to end now, and I have to make these hits. And I know I didn't shoot slow, but I shot slower than normal because I wanted that precision. And I knew at the time um, the things that had occurred were no longer against me, they were against another officer or two officers, right? So yes, it allowed me to open up that brain and go, okay, look, this needs to happen here, but I can't just go cyclic, right? And I 100%, man, people don't understand that the training has to be very high level, very fast, and second nature to allow your brain to do other things. And I think I can't remember if Matt posted it online or he's going to post it, but I think he brought Christian Sailor in back east somewhere and ran him through a CQB shoot
Really?
after like an hour, 30 minutes or an hour of training. And you know who Christian Sailor is,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And he just crushed it, man.
Yeah, that's
It's
awesome.
like I know there were some clips online of it that Matt had posted on Instagram. I don't know if it ever made it to video, maybe for reasons outside of our knowledge. But man, if you've ever like if it ever comes to fruition or if it's out there, watch it because the little couple clips that I saw, I was like, God dang, man, you know.
Well, again, that's more proof of what we're talking about here, right? Yeah, that's a real cool story. I had no clue about that.
I
I
don't
guess I need
know.
to
It
pay it.
might have been Christian. I don't know if it was Christian for sure, but it was somebody at that level. And I want to Christians kind of sticks out to me. But if you can find it, or if I'll look for it. It's amazing, dude. It just reaffirms everything that we've just talked about.
I'll try to look for it for sure. It would be great if I could find it and put it in the show notes.
Sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think this is just driving home the main point we were trying to make tonight is
Yeah.
that we are not saying that competitive shooting is the end all be all by any stretch. That's why you and I spoke about making sure people are doing well executed force on force training.
Sure.
But if the main point that I think all of us are trying to do is to get everybody that is carrying a gun for self defense. We're just trying to push folks that otherwise wouldn't be competing to just do some. And Aaron and I have uh, this text string with a couple of guys. One of them being Brian Schilt, as you know, and
Mhm.
then another gentleman. I'll just say his first name because I don't have permission to talk about, and I probably wouldn't do that anyway. His last name, but Ryan. We had this back and forth talking about some of these similar subjects, and he decided to go shoot an IDPA match this last weekend. And one of the points that we're trying to drive home is, although I think Tim Heron will disagree with this, and maybe I know Tim listens to the show. He's I hope that he actually hears this and he can back up what I'm saying or let me know if I'm incorrect. But at one point we had a discussion on our show that he said he didn't believe that competition was training, right? And I can't remember how I responded or Aaron responded. I don't remember which one. And I really would like to think that Tim at his level as a GM in USPSA, I think there was a certain point that maybe a match isn't the best training for guys at his level or some of the highest level shooters. But what I'd like to submit is getting people that otherwise are mediocre at best shooters to get them to compete. That match is still training for that type of person. Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
Man.
Am I opening up a can of worms here?
Yeah, man. So I am going to somewhat agree with Tim.
Okay,
Um, and the reason I say that, man, is the competition is a validation of the training that you put in.
absolutely.
And that's where I'm coming from. I don't think it's a training event. It could be a negative training event
Sure.
where you go through the stage and you're like, man, I need to work on my reloads. I need to work on my distance shooting. And that is training in itself to understand where my failures and my performance, my good performance and my failures are, right? So, but as far as actual training, I don't think there's training value. I just think it's a validation that my training is either working or not working.
So I this is where I might contradict myself. I agree with you and I agree with Tim on those points. Where I would like to press my thoughts on it is that getting anybody to compete results in them performing better all around. And I think it's mainly because
Yes.
none of us want to look poor in front of our peers. I think competition makes people want to get better. So what do they end up doing? They end up dry firing.
Yep.
They end up going to the range more. So maybe what I should phrase it as is if we can push people to compete, they're likely going to work on the back end and actually do training. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah, so this is going to directly relate into how I teach my firearms instructor courses, right? So a couple years ago, Arizona Post changed some of their stuff, and it's going to change again here pretty quick. Um, but they were like, "Hey, we're no longer going to teach revolvers, and we're no longer going to teach shotgun." Right? So past couple years I've been doing it. They're like, as long as you cover the POs for just manual of arms for a shotgun and manual of arms for a revolver, you're good. I'm like, great, that ties up a bunch of time. So right now you can do either a 1 week or a 2 week Arizona Post school. I just did one about 3 weeks ago, and I chose to do the 2 week school because when I talked to one of the guys at Post, he's like, hey man, just hit the POs for the shotgun and the revolver. The rest of the time you can do whatever you want. I'm like, perfect. So about 2 hours on revolver, just hey, if you find one in the field, as an instructor, you should be able to teach your new recruits or your new guys or guys in general how to make it safe so they don't shoot themselves, or package it with rounds in it and the evidence lady shoots herself, and here's a shotgun for less lethal use, blah blah blah. And the rest of the time I take and I do what the first so Monday you come in, you qual, you do all that crap, and then it's kind of an admin day. You get through a bunch of PowerPoints. And then Tuesday I cover shotgun and revolver. And then Wednesday we're on the range shooting. And I use Wednesday through Friday of that first week to get my students, who would be not necessarily senior guys, but guys who have been on a couple years to several years, depending on what agency sends them. And I teach them, my goal is to teach them what the gun is doing in their hands, right? And what they're doing. Because if they can't tell me what they're doing, I can't expect them to teach a new recruit
Yeah.
what the recruit's doing. So we spend a lot of time shooting, right? And when I say a lot of times, we shoot a lot. And I do everything from like USPSA style mini stages to bill drills to we throw in bullseyes, speed bulls, all that stuff. And what I get is towards the end of that week, guys are like, hey man, why are we not training this way?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm like, well, this is for you guys to start changing culture, right? Because I'm the old guy. In a few years, I'm going to be out of here. So we need to get these guys to change culture. And what that is that drives them, like you said, competition wise, they're sitting there going, man, I want to be better than the guy next to me shooting this class today. So they go home and they start dry fire and they ask about, hey man, what does your dry fire routine look like? What does this look like? And next thing you know, by the end of that Friday of the first week, they're sitting there thinking, okay, I'm going to do this. These are my failure points. I'm going to work on this in dry fire. And then some of the guys are like, hey man, I think I'm going to go shoot a match, to kind of see where I rate. And I'm like, hey man, don't be surprised if you go to a match and just get your ass handed to you, right?
By
But it's
some chubby ass doctor or lawyer.
yeah,
Not to
exactly, man.
disparage them. I'm not saying that at all. It is
No,
just it is a fact of, it is a matter of fact. It happens all the time.
when you are a cop and you go to a competition, whether USPSA or IDPA, and you are not used to shooting at that level, and some little, like you said, dude with glasses that's 60 pounds overweight gets up there and just burns it down and places number one, and you're at like number 40, you sit there and go, man, police training sucks, you know? And 100% I agree with you where it gets people out of that I'm good enough stage to become better. It breeds that competition spirit where they want to be better. They don't
Excuse
want to
me.
be nobody wants to be, well, there might be some, but nobody wants to be the mediocre guy at their agency, right? So by the end of that first week, guys are like, man, I've got to get better. And I think that's exactly what you're talking about is you get the guy that's a gun guy, but he's not like a big shooter. He's like, hey, I got my gun. I shoot a couple times a year. And then he goes to a competition. He's like, man, I don't know anything.
Yep.
That's what we want, you know? And it's starting to change here in Arizona. Police agencies are really supporting it. And there's a whole huge group of guys out here that are really pushing for it and changing culture just based off of the fact of, hey, go shoot a competition. And
Yeah.
guys are getting hooked because cops are realizing, hey man, the stuff we're getting at the department isn't, unless we change, is not going to fit for me in a gunfight, right? And I'm not saying, like we were talking about, competition is not a gunfight, but the rules are the same: rapid, accurate rounds on target, and multiple rounds, right? Because it's not usually not one or two when lead's slinging both ways.
Well, and I'll hit this real quick. I'd forgotten this other quote from Massad Ayoob where he was talking about some of these older gunfighters, these older coppers or soldiers, and he said that they made shooting under pressure, making solid hits with the handgun, the norm. So again, that's where a lot of that really leads to. And again, another factor of competitive shooting is you were on the line and around experienced shooters, right? I mean, just how to, load and unload your pistol. You're learning all these manual of arms factors that you may have not been exposed to before. How are those people doing all that? What holsters, what belts are they running? You're going on the line and doing all this manual of arms over and over again in a match that you're not doing at the local range, and you may or may not heard me talk recently about shooting the NRA ARC matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say running an AR I mean, it is a low barrier of entry, right? It is not the course of fire for the level one is not very difficult, but for a experienced shooter to clean that course is going to be very, very hard. So it's
Sure.
this large range, but you know what? Those new shooters with their AR that's been sitting in a gun safe, they're running a safety the whole after every stage when they're in the low ready. They're having to run that safety every single time. They're having to unload, load, put in the empty chamber indicator, doing all of these manual of arms that they would have never done otherwise, right? Or at least under that. And so again, I think back to IDP or USPC, you're doing the same thing with the handgun. Go ahead, buddy.
No, no, no. It's all good, man. It brings up so many points, right? You're just manipulating. You're just manipulating your gun alone. Loading,
Yep.
unloading, processing, reloads, dry fire will make you steps above as a shooter. Just having the knowledge to go, I, again, subconscious, right? I can do this without thinking about it. So one, absolutely, man, just that ability to manipulate a firearm with, man, like you shot, right? You get to the end of the stage, and you're like, unload and show clear, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, I hope I don't have an AD. So like you're pulling the ammo out, you're checking the gun, because there's still a dude looking over your shoulder.
Yeah.
You still have this amount of pressure on you,
Mm-hmm.
because now you're doing that as a guy that's never held a gun. You get some dude telling you what to do, and you're like, okay. And then after you do it 4, 5, 6 times, you're like, okay, unload, show clear. Magazine comes out, lock to the rear, check, drop, slide, press trigger, right? It's second nature. It's just like shooting, and it's funny, man, because I want to hit on 2 points here as far as the quote that you just said. One of the best quotes I ever heard was from my buddy Dave Bush. Right, same squadron as Matt comes. They know each other very well. I brought my team out to Texas. We're sitting there around Dave as we're listening to him tell stories, and he's talking about the shootings and stuff like that. And he goes, guys, I just want you to know something. Shooting has to be like unconscious competence, right? He goes, because a gunfight is nothing more than an ordinary task carried out under extraordinary circumstances.
Nice. Yeah.
And I was like, goddamn genius. You know?
That's good.
And when you really break that down, there's no truer statement, right? Ordinary task. We all go to the range and shoot. Now you just add in that extraordinary pressure of being shot at, or somebody trying to kill you with a knife or with a vehicle, whatever. You're still doing the same task. It's just under a different environment. And that is, if you look at it from that perspective, man, it's like, okay, that's why the shooting just has to run in the background. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, that's great. And I think a good place to leave us when it comes to the competitive shooting discussion. Bottom
Yeah.
line, folks, choose a match format. And is it GPC? I think is one of the newer ones now. I'm going to be embarrassed if I'm misstating that, but there are some other avenues out there, and I believe it is GPC is similar to IDPA. I think they even use IDPA targets.
Okay.
But the point is supposedly there's less rules.
Is
Um,
that the one where you flip the coin and it tells you what
I really don't know that much about it, but what I will say is the location that I shoot the ARC matches, which is a phenomenal facility.
Sure.
They do those matches, and I believe it is GPC. I'm gonna again, I don't mind being wrong on the air. I'm wrong in some cases. I always correct myself, but bottom line is that's another avenue that's coming out, and a lot of clubs are doing it. But find a venue, and I'm really going to continue. I'm going to keep driving home ARC because I know there's a ton of AR owners out there that would really, really benefit. Unfortunately, NRA ARC is still so new that it might be hard to find in some locations, but I'm
Man,
sure that it's going to grow.
I have never heard of it. Like when we were having that text conversation, I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So it's definitely new out here, because I was thinking, to me, it's like IDPSA, IDPA, USPSA, and now the big one is PCSL.
Yes.
Pistol. I mean, and man, that's like, if you like two gun, that's the way to go. Everything's designed for red dots, 200 and in. It's an absolute blast, man.
Man,
Uh,
I think I saw one of those matches on Practice Score in
yes,
my area. I need to get in on those, and I'll say this, I've been on Practice Score for I can't count how many years, but that's another thing, folks. Practice Score is free. Just go on and use a email that you don't use as often if you don't want to give out your email so readily. But you can go on there and just simply put your location, and all of a sudden you start seeing all these matches that you never knew were there.
yeah,
So I recommend people going to Practice Score online and getting an account. It's free, and just see what's in your area and get into a match. preferably something like IDPA, USPSA, GPC. If you're lucky enough as an AR owner that there's ARC in your area, get out there and compete, because you
I'll
will absolutely benefit. Well,
I will
go
definitely
ahead.
look into that because I haven't heard of it. So, and of course, Arizona is kind of the mecca for shooting. I mean, you
Arizona
pull
is, man. It is. Yeah, and again, I can't. I know I'm beating a dead horse about the level one arc. It is basic manipulations and a stricter marksmanship. The
okay,
last stage is on a 12-inch steel plate, and this is the only the only real dynamic part of the level one. And you've got there. It's similar to a Vickers barricade, but you've got 90 seconds to shoot that still at 100 yards in 12 positions. So you're basically just making it around the positions twice. And if you miss that still, it adds 10 seconds to your time. So that's the stage in level one where you got to really slow down and make your hits. And man, I've learned so much about shooting position wise. I mean, I was a soldier. Um, we didn't do any real strict positional stuff, and I've taken a bunch of carbine classes. I've done a lot of that stuff, but this arc has forced me to learn better baseline marksmanship from positions, man. And I mean, again, you just can't you can't beat that.
did you ever take a course from Kyle Lamb?
I hadn't. I hadn't.
Kyle, I will tell you that Kyle Lamb was real big on position shooting when I shot with him. Benny Cooley,
Yep.
uh,
I've heard great things about Benny Cooley.
Benny, Benny was one of the first courses I took back in I think '04, and you want to talk about probably still one of the hardest courses I've ever taken because we didn't shoot 0 to 30 or 50. It was 50 to 200, 300 with him. Very big on positional shooting. And of course, Pat Rogers was too, believe it or not. Pat had a whole uh, day damn near of positional shooting. So everything from kneeling to squatting to urban prone, rollover prone, all of that stuff. So I was assuming that was still being taught in a lot of classes, but I guess not.
A lot of the classes are, because I've taken a lot of carbine classes over the years. I won't go down the list right now, but I mean, it's mainly from standing position and prone.
Yeah.
It's like there's not a whole lot in between, which you can argue in many cases. A lot of what you're going to be doing, especially as a civilian, is probably going to be more from a standing or a prone or something like that. But I tell you, commanding the basics like positional
Sure.
shooting from seated, kneeling, prone, and obviously standing, you must command that as well. I mean, you just can't beat arc for that very reason, man. I'm really pumped about it, and
Now,
it's forced me to take a look at things. And I'll tell you, somebody that I just honestly learned about from Tenacor is Mark Smith.
okay.
And Mark Smith, and I've been doing a lot of what I've seen him do with, say, Jeff Mal, is three-dimensional barricade stuff. It's funny. The other day, I was at my local range here, and I was the only one there, which happens sometimes, especially if I'm off on during a
Sure.
weekday. I can go there and I end up doing both pistol and carbine at our rifle range, and it goes out to 300. So I'm doing stuff out to 300, and I'm turning over seating benches on the upright,
Sure.
and turning the benches that the dudes are shooting bench rest from. I'm turning them so I can have the different levels for some barricade stuff,
Sure.
and the rolling over barrels and doing all kind. And so I had a blast, and I was applying a lot of what Mark Smith espouses in his classes. And if you've not heard of Mark Smith, he's a GM. Um, JBS training, I believe, is
Okay.
his. So I'm really liking what he's doing. Matter of fact, I've got him coming on the show here in June,
He's the
and Go
kind of
ahead.
he's kind of like the country boy, right?
Yeah,
He's got
he
the
is. He definitely
as soon as you
super
said that, I was like, no.
super articulate, but
Yes,
he's definitely got, and he's got a lot of funny statements. But I like what he's doing from barricades.
yeah, yeah,
And
exactly who he is.
yeah, so but yeah, we'll have him on here pretty soon, and I'm going to get into one of his classes. I might try to host him here,
Oh, that'd
for
be awesome.
one of his courses. But anyway, bottom line, I didn't mean to get down
No, fine.
tangent, but I mean, I think honestly, this is why we work well together in these shows, is we can just talk, you know.
Sure. Quick question for
Yep.
you: Are you running a red dot? Or you running LPVO?
At ARC right now, I'm running an LPVO.
Okay.
What I will tell you is that I am gearing more towards uh, a red dot with a magnifier.
Yeah.
I do much better with that. The problem is that I don't have one of my setups that I want to run that red dot and magnifier. But I'm telling you, even out to the 300 or 400, I'm gonna focus on running magnifiers. I like it better.
I I know this isn't a shooting discussion, but what
Sure, it
magnifier
is.
are you running? Because
We
I
talk
was
about
run-
anything.
I was
I'm
running a aim point T2 with a magnifier behind it, and I did a class with a buddy of mine here locally, and I was getting a magnification shift about, I would say, 3/4 of an inch. So gun 50 yards, I could stack them on top of each other in a like a 2-inch square, right? So just stacking them. As soon as I put the magnifier behind it, my rounds were stacking each other high left in the corner of the square. So are you
interesting.
getting shift with it?
So I've been lucky that I haven't seen that much of a shift. However, I think it's a great subject to talk about. You absolutely, if folks are just throwing that magnifier on and not trying to center
Yes.
the eye box of the other optic as centered as you can get inside of that optic, then yeah, you are likely going to have shift. And if you're not trying to keep that, and this is where folks will say that the eye box shadow is bad, but in reality, with those magnifiers, if that you can use that eye box shadow as a tool, as it like becomes your aperture, and you know that you're in the center. And I'll be honest with you, I found that out the hard way when I'd been running my magnifier, and then I heard Mark Smith talk about that very thing.
Interesting.
So I think it's something I have to play with a lot more.
Okay.
But yeah, I made it a very important objective that I was going to center that as much as I could. And frankly, sometimes it might take adding an additional riser for some systems.
So
And when I say on the magnifier itself, yep.
sure. No, no, no. So it's interesting because I was running a loophole magnifier with a T2.
Hmm.
Uh, and talking to my buddy at EOTech, John, he was telling me that's why what is it, their 3 power and their 5 power, they actually have a zero. There's some kind of adjustments you can make on their magnifiers to actually zero it behind the optic. Because I was talking to him about zero shift, and he's like, "Man, that shouldn't be happening." As soon as he found out it was a loophole, he's like, "Ah, okay, that makes sense. They don't have adjustments to zero." And I'll be the first one to say I don't know anything about magnifiers, uh, but what he was saying makes sense, and it's probably why the EOTech magnifier is a bit more than your average. So I'm going to have to dig into that because I get the shift that I got with mine at 50 yards, and I was like, man, I am not. I mean, you're talking inch and a half, 2 inches off at
Yeah, and
100.
that's a no go. And it really does have to do with you're changing your parallax, is what
Yeah, absolutely.
you're actually changing what your eye is seeing and where that
Right.
dot is placing. So um I am fairly new to magnifiers as well, but I had read some articles about this similar subject, so I was being real diligent about getting that eye box and the dot as centered as possible. But I think
Sure.
there's still more room for that, to be honest with you. And I think it's a great subject, Chris,
Yeah.
because I mean, folks that are listening to this, I would hope that they have the opportunity to learn from some of the things that we have learned. And that, yeah, you just can't just slap it on. But I think in many cases, folks are putting a magnifier on and they may not be going out further than 100,
Right.
It definitely is going to be way more pronounced at, say 2 and 300. So, but it is absolutely much faster for me hitting BC still at 2 and 300. And I just run the dot better than I do running an LPVO. And
Okay.
I'm sticking with the LPVO on one of my rifles because the arc level 2 goes out to 400 or 500 yards. So I
Gotcha.
think I'm going to need, my old eyes are going to need some of that advantage from the LPVO. But for the other matches, and heck, who knows? We'll see. I may just focus on running magnifiers. I just like it better. And I definitely like being able to use my red dots for a majority of my engagements
I'm
still. And
gonna
it's still pretty light. It
yeah.
didn't increase the weight of my rifle much.
I'm gonna look into the EOTech and make sure I'm not just talking voodoo here, but I'm pretty sure they have an alignment setting where you can align it to its zero with the optic because they were they were pretty good about saying that that shouldn't be happening. But I think it's a great option, especially EOTech makes that 5 power one, right?
Yeah,
So I
I'm going to
even
look into theirs too. I had heard on, I forget what podcast, where they were talking about their magnifier and it sounded very interesting. I'm running a Vortex.
yep.
Um, it does have, and I'm hoping that we're not comparing, or I'm not comparing apples to oranges, but it definitely has a mechanism where you're zeroing the, it's not actually a zero as much as you're getting the dot in the center of the eye box, so that it's as aligned as possible.
I'll
So,
I'll look at the one because I took it off, man. I was pretty disappointed because I was like, "Hey, this is gonna be it. This is everything I need, right?" Um, and then once I started shooting it, and I literally threw it on, looked. I'm like, "Okay, it looks zeroed." I looked at the magnifier real quick, and I was like, "Man, I don't see any adjustments to true it, right, left or right." Um, so I'll have to go back and look at the actual mount for it and see if there's a way to true it. But if not, I'll definitely look at the EOTech version, and I'm sure knowing Vortex, like I'm sure theirs has a true point on it also. So I'll check those out. Because matter of fact, one of the guys at the gym has one, so I'll look at his for the Vortex.
well, I think it's an awesome discussion. I want to dig into that further too, because I mean, again, I probably got lucky because I had looked at that beforehand. So now, but that's why I want to make sure that I circle back and make sure that that is a well learned lesson for me too, and see how much better we can improve that. Because I mean, I'm starting to recommend magnifiers to a lot of my buddies, and I damn near, if it wasn't for the starting of ARC, I was going to sell my LPVO and get another magnifier and a T2.
Man,
So,
the guys I know that have them love them. Like there's a bunch of Phoenix SAU guys that just run 3 power magnifiers, and it does everything they need. And I just again they're running EOTechs, not the one I'm running. So uh, I will definitely look at that route.
I'll definitely dig deep into that for follow up discussions on the show, because I mean this is, we're honestly discussing and learning together,
Yeah,
and I think it's worth digging further into and circling back to on a later show to make sure that I'm thinking correctly on what I'm running and how that I'm doing that.
I'm
And
sure
yep.
the engineering side of your brain is a lot more articulate than the cop side of my brain.
Oh, no, man, you're a smart dude, man.
I'm
Well,
just like SWAT dude, put it on, click. Okay, it looks aligned. Press the trigger. You know?
you're too humble, man. You're a thinker first yourself. Well, listen, man, we're sitting at 1:30, man. Maybe just a real quick
Sure.
discussion. Man, I'm sure you're seeing it too, man, in Ukraine and with Ukraine and Russia, and now with U.S. forces. Not as much so the smaller uh, first person view drones that they're seeing in Ukraine, but it really made me start thinking, man. You and I think are kind of on the same page that although I think it's not probable, but it's possible, that at one point we could see hard times. If it, I mean, it could be economic, it could be faction. You and I talked offline before the show that we're in a weird place politically, and just like our founding fathers warned against faction, but part of the reason that we have the governmental system, the constitutional republic that we have with the checks and balances was to help fend off faction, because in some ways faction may be good,
Sure.
but as long as there are mechanisms to, number one, keep the especially the minority that gains majority and then tyrannizing over the minority is, I think, is most important. Anyway, getting off into a little too much
No,
civics,
man,
but
I'm with you.
it is. I just think there is still the possibility that we could see hard times in our future, and the normal preparation that most of us that are serious about being prepared for those situations, if we're not thinking about drone defense, I think we're selling ourselves shorts. What are your thoughts on that, buddy? And we can hit some details there a little bit.
Well, I agree 100%, and it doesn't have to just be at any kind of organized level. I mean, it could be an individual level that's got some kind of background. I mean, shit, the internet is a vast learning academy, right? Like you can pretty much learn whatever you want off the internet. We're seeing drones here in Arizona as far as down on the border. Border Patrol's had some issues with them. So it's not like it's an unknown to the United States. It might be an unknown to the majority of the United States, but there's definitely a portion of law enforcement that's dealt with it. I know Arizona's dealt with it. I know Texas has dealt with it. I'm sure New Mexico's dealt with it, right? And like for me, honestly, it's a scary, scary
It is
thing because
absolutely
you take whatever organization. It doesn't have to be Antifa or some crazy leftist other organization or some crazy. Let's not leave out the right. Right, the extreme right can be
absolutely.
just as bad. Um, but let's just take some gangbangers that are like, hey man, these cops have been dealing some issues with us and our territory, and they figure out how to use drones as a weapon. Um, it is not something that, again, I think American law enforcement is ready for.
Well,
You
and
know,
FPV drones are inexpensive, man. I mean, you can get them very inexpensive, and a lot of people have them already.
yeah,
So it could be a similar situation to, we know that gangbangers, where do they get their guns? They typically steal them, right?
steal them.
So
Yep,
then the same thing could be happening in bad times, is stealing that nerd's drone, and hey, man, let's put this to use. And I'll say this: um, I've seen some footage from overseas
yeah,
here recently. I won't get into too many details, but I mean, those Shahed drones from Iran, man, that is an ominous thing, man. When you see footage of those things flying around, some of my old stomping ground, and then freaking blowing up, it's a scary thing. And I saw, as I was digging a little bit further into this, I saw this one video on YouTube, of course, where this squad of Ukrainians were in one of their side by sides.
oh, I saw that.
Yeah, did you see that, man? Uh, I mean, you get this drone buzzing in, man. I mean, imagine the terror that you got this Ukrainian soldier starting to blast off rounds with the shotgun. He barely got it at the very end. That was quite a charge too, man. If that would have hit them, that would have blown that whole vehicle up, you know.
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. And if we don't think that our southern brothers there down in the border are learning from this, then we're idiots. I mean, there's absolutely information sharing going on between the cartels and ISIS and Al Qaeda and
China.
Hamas, all those,
Yep.
China, right? Um, and let's not even take it. Let's not even make it weaponized, man. Let's just talk about um, political and economic hard times, and now we have people scoping out neighborhoods for looting
Yeah, just
for
simply doing recon with them. I think recon and Overwatch might very
yes,
well be one of the most important roles for guys like us too, or knowing that the enemy could be using that as well. Very good point.
in like you and I think drones, we think of like, oh, weaponized, but man, you get some dudes out there that understand how to use them as an Overwatch or as a a uh, concepts of life, or what I'm trying to think of the word. I just it blanked out on me, but patterns of
Pattern
life,
life. Yep. Hmm.
pattern of life, and you've got some pretty good intel there on the neighborhood, how it works, who's home, who's not, who may
Movement
be
patterns.
exactly movement patterns, who has things in their backyard that we might be interested in,
Yep. Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
and
And I think that really when I started digging into drones a couple of years ago, I don't own one yet, but I've been researching them quite a bit. I think I finally settled on what I might be getting. My issue, I'll just digress a second, is I was trying to avoid Chinese drones. It is absolutely hard not to go that route right now. We just don't have US companies
yeah,
that are producing what we need. So hopefully here soon that happens. But bottom line, that was the first thing I really thought about was having a drone for Overwatch. You know,
so
go ahead.
um I want to circle back to that whole like Chinese drone thing. The drone program was starting up as I was leaving. I think I was there for the first couple years of it, as the commander of the team. And I want to say, and I might be wrong, but one of the big drone companies that we bought our drone from, there was an issue with purchasing because I want to say the hardware and software primarily came from China. And I want to say it was a grant that we got it on, and the grant was not friendly to overseas purchasing. But it's like, where else are we going to get it from? I mean, the requirements required IR, thermal, and daytime capabilities, right? And now that you bring that up, I think that was a big issue with this drone. And once we did a capabilities search, nobody else had that technology. It was an American based company, so we ended up buying from them. And you want to talk about scary? I know you're well versed in drones as far as like some of the uses you've had for them overseas and stuff. But the first time I saw the capabilities of that drone several years ago and what it could do at night,
Oh yeah.
man, it is the clarity, the picture it provides, the on scene immediate freaking intel. It doesn't matter if it's raining, foggy, whatever. You put that thing on thermal setting, and I can zoom in from several hundred feet
Oh
and
yeah.
have a very clear picture of who I'm looking
It,
at.
it, it's amazing, and even some of these cheaper drones that have a lot of those
Yeah.
capabilities. Yeah, man, it's encouraging knowing that we can get some of those technologies for ourselves in our personal preparation. But also, man, it is a scary thing to me, man. I mean, it really is, and that's why I really started thinking about okay, um, what are they doing overseas? I had the thoughts myself. I was like, man, I think need to get better at using the shotgun, and lo and behold, that's not 100%, but of course, the Ukrainians and the Russians have some great successes using a
Sure.
shotgun. the U.S. military is starting to delve deeper into that. And we weren't going to go too deep into the articles, but there's a former lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps said, hey, that the armed forces need to be doing this,
Sure.
and they need to. So we're talking about competition tonight, right? And I'm not gonna BS here. Um, I've had my thoughts about the skeet shooting and all that stuff, which there's skill behind that. But I kind of poo pooed skeet shooting for many years. Maybe some of it's because of the political. A lot of those folks
Yeah.
thought us black rifle guys were impeding on their rights, and so it
Sure.
kind of soured me for a while. But the truth be told, man, I think in preparation for dealing with the possible hard times and a bunch of FPV drones rolling around, I think skeet shooting just might be something that could be some valuable training. And this Marine Corps colonel was postulating that that's what the Marine Corps should be doing, is going
Sure.
out, reaching out into that realm. And I'll just ask you your thoughts on that. Do you think that's probably something we should be looking at?
I I agree. I absolutely agree. In number one, it's shooting, right? We just talked about that.
Mm.
Shooting a moving target with multiple rounds. If you don't hit it at the first shot, so at least you're behind the gun. You're getting trigger time. And secondly, yeah, man, until we have some type of capability where we can use uh, plasma guns or sonic or whatever to take these things out of the sky, what's going to be the best defense against it is some type of shotgun. Now, I'm going to look at it from a technology standpoint and go, hey, man, for the past couple hundred years, a shotgun has either been a pump shotgun or some type of semi-auto like a Benelli or the 1301s from Beretta. Man, maybe we'll see the United States start to develop some reliable magazine-fed high-capacity shotguns.
Yeah, I think you're hitting it on the head, man. I mean, like right now, I'm just pulling up my not it's not a 1301, but it's the poor man's 1301.
.301 or whatever it is.
It's an A300, the
Okay, yeah.
Beretta A300. Phenomenal shotgun, man. I love it. And,
Oh, yeah.
it was like $500 less than a 1301. So now this right here is becoming where I'm going, you know what? I got to get even better with it and start to run some. I'm actually going to I'm going to do some skeet shooting, man.
So you got me beat, man, because I've got an 870 that was an old police shotgun that was given to me as a gift by somebody, and ISBR'd it. So now it's a 14-inch entry gun.
Wow. You were
And
saying something, but hey, man, still, I'm sure
still,
you can run that. I'm sure you can run that action and still be effective with it, man.
yeah,
Um,
I was looking at it. For me, again, kind of that prepper. I don't want to say prepper, but that preparedness mindset we talk about sometimes. I was thinking, hey, man, it wouldn't be bad to have some kind of pump shotgun where you could do emergency breaching on. You know
Oh
what I
yeah,
mean?
very very good point. And how about breaching tools?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a subject that may go down a realm where some people may feel uncomfortable, but you may be in hard times. You might be detained.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of skills that are important to have that otherwise might be on the criminal element side now. But having a breaching fireman's tool may also be another thing that we should keep in our tools as well. Literally tools. I'm not using that overused phrase of tool belt thing, but
Yeah. Yeah. Toolbox. Yeah. No,
yeah,
I get it.
yeah. But yeah, I just think it's something that we should consider, and it's probably not a bad idea to take some of that a little more serious. And I'm going to take this A300 out, Ultima Tactical out to some skeet shooting and just get better at doing that. I used to do that some when I was younger. Um,
I liked skeet shooting, man. It was
it
always,
is fun, man. I was sitting there poo pooing a little bit earlier, but I think I had that division for a little while, but it's fun. It's
I
a lot
think
of fun.
the only time I really didn't enjoy it is we were on a range, and I can't remember where this was. It might have been back east when I lived in Massachusetts, where you can only have an over under shotgun. Like you couldn't have a pump shotgun, you couldn't have a semi auto, and it's like, man, I'm not going to go out and buy a $2,500 Beretta
Nope.
over or under because I'm going to shoot skeet shit. I want to be able to do, get on it.
Yes.
And so, yeah, man. I mean, think about it. A shotgun is such an underestimated tool. You can hunt with it. You can breach with it. You can fight with it. You can do skeet shooting with it. There's so many different things that tool is capable of.
Man,
Uh,
with slugs, dangerous large animals,
oh,
absolutely. The shotgun is, I've just owned this maybe a couple of years now, but I didn't own a shotgun for years. And
yeah,
I had an 870 and a 590 that I had for years. And, I was that, hey, I need more Glocks and more ARs. So and I was mad at myself after the fact.
dude, I'm going to be up in Colorado the first week of August doing a course, assisting with a course, we'll say, and there's going to be some mobility portions involved where we're going to be up in the mountains of Colorado, and I'm like, man, I'm just not comfortable carrying an AR against a bear.
Yep.
I'll certainly take a shotgun with some 1 ounce slugs,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
there's not a lot that won't be stopped by a 1 ounce piece of lead going 1,400 feet per second.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And to the point, not that you and I are big, we're not all that concerned about stopping power, but you know what? There's no recorded empirical better man stopper than some double aught buck. It's usually a one serving affair, as Tom Givens says.
Hey, man, you take a shotgun into a house with buck, and it's like you said, man, you get a center mass hit on a human being. Just the sheer hydrostatic shock alone of those 9 pellets hitting, it, yeah, it's definitely. Um, I would say it's probably more effective than a rifle at
Yeah,
certain in certain.
absolutely. I honestly think that's been proven, man,
Yeah,
in many studies. Well, what I will say is that I'm not totally settled, doing a little bit of research, but my guess is that we're really going to be looking at some further reaching game rounds, wise for drones. And I wanted I came here a little bit half cocked. But I know that a lot of the European countries have been doing some of this research, and
sure.
I've seen that they've stretched out the effectiveness out to like 80, 100 meters with the shotgun with these drones.
Is
And
that with like a shot type?
yeah, to my understanding, that is correct.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay,
But again, I think that's where I need to do some additional research because I know I've done some research. There's been some people doing some stuff online, but I want to know what these organizations are doing militarily and find out what they're actually using in those situations. Cause I think to come back to this discussion, I think it's important to really nail down, okay, what should we keep on hand, you know,
sure. Um,
and
'Cause-
to close this conversation, because I think I've taken enough of your time, brother,
oh, you're fine. I got nothing planned.
is I'm not going to hit on the article right now, but our U.S. military, you may have seen that article I sent to you, is they're
Sure.
now doing a bunch of rifle rounds, and heck, let me mention exactly where that's coming out of, but
Yeah, I saw that. The black tip stuff that you had kind of towards the bottom of the
yep.
page. I was reading about that.
Yeah, and
Very
so essentially, it's the U.S. military's naval, and it makes sense. It's naval. They're facing this stuff more than the ground forces, but the U.S. military's Naval Surface Warfare Center Crane Division has
imagine that.
designed and developed the drone killer cartridge, or DKCs. They have both. What they're let me get to Goodness gracious. I had some of it highlighted. Okay, yeah, here it is. So the DKC family of loads includes both pelletized and segmented. So you got like 3 segments in like a 308,
Yeah.
or multiple pellets in a plastic. I guess you would call that like a sabo, maybe.
Yeah, it
Um,
was almost like a sabo round.
yeah.
Interesting.
So they're essentially rifle rounds with several either pellets uh, or projectiles, like maybe 3 or so that look like also like sabos. But bottom line is that's going to stretch the capabilities, and they're showing.
I
Uh,
wonder if they'll. I wonder if they'll shed the skin at a certain distance to produce almost that, um, that the pelletized traveling. So after a certain amount of feet, it'll shed that to gain accuracy and distance, like you were talking about.
it's kind of what it alludes to, and I'm sure
Yeah.
they're probably not being super um, informative on exactly how it works. But yeah, it's the way the mechanism works. They're looking at achieving a 92% success rate with these. Is
Wow.
what they're showing in testing, and stretching the distance out beyond shotgun ranges they specifically tested.
Man, like the federal flight control buckshot was kind of the gold standard. I
Yeah.
mean, you could shoot groups if you had the right barrel and you put some of that stuff in it, man. You could keep everything on target at 25 yards, which is like unheard of.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely. It
uh,
changed. It absolutely changed the field in buckshot for certain. And
yeah,
I sit here and think, imagine having a 240 with these 308 drone killers going belt fed on some drones.
yeah, dude.
I mean, that's some firepower.
I'll do one better. How about a minigun, man?
Oh yeah, better yet. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I could imagine that the Navy's probably been doing that already.
Oh
So,
yeah,
well,
yeah, for sure.
listen, Chris, man, I think we've had an awesome discussion.
Sure.
It's always a blast talking with you. You and I have excellent conversations. We speak well with each other. So
For sure.
I always love these discussions, brother. Um,
Absolutely.
I really appreciate you giving our show your time and being the great friend that you are, brother. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely, man. I'm always happy. Like I think we talked after like right before or right when you announced the podcast going away, man. It was not something I wanted to hear. It's one of the few podcasts I actually listen to.
Well, we always appreciate your support. You're one of our best supporters out there. And man, I you've probably heard me say on the air, man, when we decided to put the show on hiatus, man, I was emotional, man.
Oh
I
yeah.
literally had tears, man. Um, and I've said this multiple times, and I've had some discussions with even some people very close to me where they gave me the impression, and there's more than one person, that you know what was our intention behind this. We were trying to make a name for ourselves and all that, and I it kind of hurt my feelings, and I'm like, we do this because we love getting information out there, and we believe so hard, and in our hearts, I should say, that the information, mainly because of our mentors, can be life-saving information. And so, to be honest, man, I think that's the biggest reason we do it, man, is we believe in the information,
Yeah.
and the amount of friends, the networking that we have had through this show has been exponentially more beneficial than anything else. And
Yeah.
and so yeah, we got a lot of emails and text messages from folks that are like, no, we and I continue to get emails when I was deployed, like, hey, where's your guys' show? You know,
Hey man, I still let me see if I can get this right, but I think it was show number 7 and show number 9
hmm
were two of the best podcasts I've ever listened to, and I don't think they're on the the cycle anymore. Uh,
So incidentally, so yeah, you're I think one of them was 9, maybe one was 17. I don't remember the exact numbers. Uh,
maybe it was 7 and 19 or 7 and 9. I don't remember, but those two podcasts stuck with me very, very, very specifically, man. And unfortunately, they're not on that loop
y-
anymore. I'm
yeah,
hoping they
and really that's actually what I was about to say when I moved our hosting over to Spotify. I believe that those are back in rotation now.
Oh,
Now,
okay.
what I will tell you is that I have, because, it's not that it's that big of a deal, but back then, we were still kind of new at producing these shows. And I've thought about redoing those shows with the same exact content, maybe a slightly different take on, but really, what Chris is talking about is we had our EvoSec Essentials
Yep.
and what we felt that people should be placing their focus on and yeah, I definitely have thought about redoing those shows just for production quality and putting them back out.
Shoot, man. Just for updated information alone, same
Yeah,
format. Just like, hey, in the past 4 or 5, how long has it been? Almost 5 years now.
yeah, it's been over 5 now.
Yeah. So 5 years, hey man, things have changed. EDC's changed,
Yep,
medical's changed, freaking your priorities have changed, right?
yep,
100%. There's nothing wrong with redoing and updating. I mean, because I guarantee if I went back and listened to them now, what I thought was my required stuff then has changed to what it is
absolutely.
now.
Yeah,
You
man,
know,
I appreciate you bringing that up because you're just making me feel that it's important to what I've been thinking in the back of my mind is redoing those shows. I'm
dude,
gonna I'm gonna make that happen.
I sent those shows to so many people, man. I can't even tell you. They were that good. So
Well, man, that means a lot, Chris, and especially coming from you being an accomplished shooter, a SWAT commander, a combatives, functional badass yourself, means a lot to me, man. I appreciate that.
I appreciate it, man. And I'm going to tell you one other thing. I said we if we had time, and I know we're short on time here,
No,
but
we're good.
I'll make it good here, make it quick. As far as the historical information we were talking about, as far as those books go, right? I sat down with somebody in Oklahoma City, and you and I can talk more offline on it. Um, and I kind of brought up a point. I was like, "Hey, man, we're starting to lose some of these guys.
Yep.
You know, we've lost Pat Rogers,
Mhm.
we've lost Dave Harrington, we've lost
John Holsham.
John Holson, all of these older guys that have played a part. And hey, man, you can call them FUDs, you can call them whatever you want, but they led the way to where we're at now, right? Um,
Absolutely.
so I sat down with somebody that's got a pretty good producer capability, and they've agreed to allow me to do probably a historical video on anybody that's still alive, talking about from how we're at today all the way back to 1800s, 1700s, on how firearms training progressed from the 1800s to the 1900s with Sykes and Fairbairn, and how it became an American thing, and how we are with like the Ben Stogers, the Matt Prankas today. And it'll probably be a long segment, but man, those guys were as pumped as I was. And, I just brought them an idea and I said, hey, I think you guys need to do this because we're losing information. And they were like, well, we want you to do it. And I was like, okay. So I might be out in Oklahoma quite a bit once kind of June, July is over, primarily Oklahoma City. But there might be a good chance for us to um, definitely get your opinion on some of the interviewees that I want to do.
Yeah, that'd be
But
awesome. And I tell you, guys like Lee Weems and Tom Givens,
yeah,
they are some awesome sources for that as well.
yeah, and so I'm very very interested. I'm excited about it. I have a vision of what I want. But man, you look back, like try and find a copy of Kill or Be Killed or No Second Place Winner. Any of those books, they're not in print
Yeah.
anymore.
And I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Carl Wren, who
Yeah,
is an
absolutely.
awesome source for the firearms history. So I think man, I think that's an awesome project that I'd love to see that come to fruition.
Yeah,
And
man.
again, it is certainly something that is important for anybody that's serious about this. Know our history and where all it came from.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of younger people that just don't, they either don't know the Dunning Kruger realm or they may not care in some cases. But
Yeah. And to me, that's sad because, dude, you and I mean, we're the same age. We've kind of lived through. We've had an interesting life, man. We started like where people were shooting revolvers. Then we
mhm,
went to semi-autos. The big semi-auto came in during our lifetime, which is Glock, which revolutionized guns, right?
absolutely.
We had the 1911 and revolvers. Those were in the CZs, CZ75. Those were the big semi-autos, right? Then third gen Smiths became popular. That was kind of the cycle out of revolvers. Then we got Glock, and then we saw the capabilities of firearms start producing very reliable semi-autos, and we saw the introduction of night sights, flashlights on guns, and now we're at freaking red dots.
Yep.
You know, we have in our lifespan we have seen a phenomenal progression in technology as far as firearms and gunfighting. Let's call it what it is, right? Um, and I think some people today just don't realize that not too long ago there were guys out there carrying a non-night sighted freaking pistol,
Yep.
and went to work every day with that on. And I don't want that to be lost. I think that's a lot of history that people can read and see how far we've come. And in maybe 20 years, look back and go, man, these guys had these red dots on their guns. What kind of idiots were they?
Yeah, I think that, and again, I encourage guys like Carl Wren and Lee Weems, and I know, John Hearn. We mentioned him earlier.
Yeah,
Those guys can really push a lot of that information as well. And your project that you're talking about, I think it sounds phenomenal, man. It's needed, man. Um,
yeah,
Understanding our history and why we're doing what we're doing, and also to drive home exactly what we talked about before, is nothing's really that new. Now we know red dot pistols is certainly new technology.
yeah.
Now I know that what I'm Kelly McCann, excuse me. Yeah, Kelly McCann was doing red dots many years ago. I think he might have been the first person to be doing it. The point is, but that wasn't that long ago in the whole
No,
scheme of things. But
and he might have had like a Doctor Optic
I
in
think so.
late 80s, maybe early 90s.
Yeah.
And everybody looked at him like he was a nut job at first. They're like, what?
Well, hell, if
Now,
we can go on this route, man. People
yeah,
thought a lot of old timers thought that we were being idiotic when we started putting red dots on our ARs, man. Now
yeah,
there's not a serious AR that doesn't have at least a red dot on the top of it.
100%.
So,
Yeah, yep,
well, man, listen, brother, that sounds excellent, man. I can't wait to hear more about it.
sure,
So,
sure.
well, Chris, it's been a blessing, man. I know our audience is going to enjoy this. I know I'm going to look forward to listening to it again myself. And
Absolutely.
Aaron didn't know. I didn't tell him anything about this show because uh, we were talking about a few shows earlier in the week, and he has been ecstatic about hearing shows that just as a listener, and so I didn't tell him anything about it. So I'll just let it be a surprise for him.
Man, please pass on my hello to him.
We'll do.
Let him know I was thinking of him, and I miss him on the show too, man.
Yeah, and he'll be on from time to time. It's just that, again, we've talked about this before on here, that his sons are in a formative time, and
Yeah,
um, but he's still a part of the show. He's
Yep.
just not going to be on it as much, at least right now. So I'll
Sure.
pass that on to him.
Absolutely, man.
Well, brother, you have a great evening, man. We'll talk to you soon, man.
Same, brother, and I appreciate it again.
You're very welcome. You support us, man, and this content supports us. So you have a great evening, Chris.
Take care, bro.
Later, brother.